Hello Internet, my name is Dbaughcherry, and today we're going to be talking about treatments. So if you ever get into an elevator with somebody, you're going to need a few things. You're going to need to know what your script is, both inside and out. You're going to need to know exactly what happens. And your logline is effectively that 30-second pitch that just gets the initial concept in. You've got no time at all. You've got the executive right there. You said exactly what you want, which is awesome. Say he wants to follow up with questions. That's kind of where your treatment's coming into play. Your treatment is going to be the thing that will allow you to answer more questions going forward. It'll help you outline exactly what those points are so that, you're not wasting that producer's time trying to come up with ideas that you didn't have before. You've gotten him to the pitch, you've explained your idea in your one-sentence breakdown. Now it's time to really follow up with a few more details. A treatment is typically 2 to 3 pages long. It just outlines what's happening in each one of your acts. There are typically 3 acts, 1, 2, and 3. We will go into exactly what my treatment looks like and exactly what every point that I have on my treatment is. We're going to do that in a different episode because there's no way to do that and make this of a watchable length. It's just a certain amount of time. That's 2 to 3 pages of typing that there's only so much I can speed that up. And it was important to me to be able to go through every one. So for right now, I just want to talk about the sort of theoretical principles behind a treatment and what that's doing for you. Now it is breaking down your logline just a little bit further than it would have been before. It's kind of nailing down some details. Generally speaking, your first act, you're going to have a guy or girl or whoever your protagonist is, and they're going to have some sort of issue that they're trying to overcome. We call that a fatal flaw, I guess, in the writing world. Basically, everybody has flaws. You want to build some into your character that they have to overcome so that you can get them from point A to point B. The first act is going to be them really kind of dealing with those struggles. Their life sucks. They can't pay their rent. They're about to get evicted. Something is going to happen. Then they're presented with a choice. There's a sort of catalyst moment where your life sucks, but you could do this one thing and maybe your life gets better. And they sort of mill their feet about it. They decide one way or the other. Ultimately, they decide to do the thing that the storyline was written for, or else movies would be pretty boring, really. But once they've made that decision, they go into the second act. That second act is typically about half of your movie. You're going to have the first little end bit and the last little end bit, but most of it takes place right there in the second act, and that's going to be where all those cool scenes that you were thinking up, like, oh, he's going to be, I don't know, a space ranger or something. That's where he's doing the space rangering or whatever. Say he was a lawyer that is incapable of lying. That's where he's going to be a lawyer incapable of lying. He's really kind of getting into the nuts and bolts of the thing. Chase scenes will often happen in the second act. He's making some progress, but ultimately he loses or fails in some way towards the end of it. And the bad guys have a way of resurgence right around the midpoint, and they'll build up until he loses everything right at the end of the second act. The third act will come up, and basically he's fighting the bad guy. That's where your major boss fights are coming in. That's where the major turnover happens. He sort of learns his lesson, he overcomes his fatal flaw, and he beats the antagonist, and everybody lives happily ever after, or whatever the end of your script is going to be. So you're basically, with your treatment, you're just outlining those major points. Oh, he's going to do this thing, and then this thing, and then this thing, and this thing, and this thing, and this thing. So that, as in my previous example, you've gotten your elevator pitch out. They really like the idea. Now you follow up with basically the things that are in your treatment. It's also important to date those things because it's going to show a pattern of work that's taking place. It's going to show where you're coming up with your initial ideas. It's going to allow you to kind of copyright some of that content because it's not something that's just in your head anymore. You've now brought it into the real world. You've made it a thing. We'll go into exactly what mine entails and exactly line by line what I put in my treatment, what steps that I'm taking for every one of them, that sort of thing. But that's going to be a separate video because that's just a long period of time that it's going to take. But that's all I had for you as far as the first episode of treatments goes. We'll get more into the nitty-gritty in the episode following. I did want to say before I end this video that we did just launch on Patreon, so if you feel like you would like to support me, that would be great. I'm not doing this for money, but it does take money to make a feature film. You know, if this is something that you like and something that you would like to get kind of more involved in, that would be a great way to do it. We're going to be launching, you know, special content on there. You'll get to see things a little bit early. But that's enough of that. It was a pleasure as always. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And it was, you know, I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Hello Internet, my name is David Baugh, and I wanted to talk to you today about the start of something new.